TIG welding in a patch panel on the roof of a 51 Ford truck. First, you want to make sure your metal's good and clean. You want to keep a nice clean gap in between the metal as you go. I've started my tacks. I'm going to continue to cut the two pieces of metal as I go and tack them together, keeping it nice and cool to keep the distortion down. You want to keep your tacks a couple inches apart to start with and keep them spaced out and clamped. You want the two surfaces of metal that you're welding to be flush together. You can use clamps. I use a backing plate of brass or copper to keep the heat down, because you want to keep it cool as you go. You'll also notice I cleaned both sides of the metal really good and clean, and that's going to give you a better weld in the end result. As you get your tacks done, you're going to want to jump around from side to side around your panel. Now I've moved over to this side, start cutting my gap, and that way you keep it cool. You want to keep it cool to keep the metal from getting too hot and distorting. You'll notice as I cut my two pieces of metal to put them together, I use a jigsaw and I follow the one sheet of metal that's clamped into place that I'm filling my gap with. And as I cut them, they'll fall together, and I'll place a clamp to clamp it in place to start my tack welds. Once my line's cut, I'm going to go back and make sure the surface is good and clean. Once the surface is good and clean on both sides, I'm going to make sure they're flush. I'm going to continue this process along the seam until your entire patch panel is tacked in place. Then you'll go back in between your tacks and you'll tack more to give it extra strength and dissipate the heat faster. Once you've tacked in all your tacks, you can go to stitch in between all the welds, cooling it as you're welding until your final patch panel is installed